At long last, the battle has ended. Ghana, your beloved country, is free forever.
At midnight, the 5th of March 1957, a new country was born. Ghana, the first colony in British West Africa to achieve independence. 10 years later, one of the most ambitious trade fairs ever staged on the African continent. The products of the world were on show. Eastern Europe, Western Europe, Asia, Britain, America, and all the sophisticated products of Ghana's new progress. But what was the reality behind this brave show of confidence? Ten years later, strange monuments to freedom.
The Europeans were able to colonize us, order us about, take our raw materials, only because of the 19th century Industrial Revolution. And so we believed, and still believe, that the only way we could get on equal terms, look at them in the eyes, was industrializing ourselves as fast as we could.
These aspirations of a new nation echoed round the world. What indeed was independence if it didn't release a people's latent energies? But you can't build industries just on aspirations. They grow from careful assessments, studies of markets, communication networks, raw materials, prices, manufacturing costs. Why did so many state-owned enterprises collapse? So many state-directed dreams turn into costly failures?
A steel rod plant to run only on scrap. There might have been enough scrap if there had been some way of collecting it. Losses in 1 year, £300,000. The most expensive steel rods ever made.
A bag factory. We needed the bags. We imported the raw materials, but it was cheaper to import the bags. More than £500,000 lost in 3 years.
A big dry dock for small ships.
A meat packing factory, corned beef, chilled beef, all the finest machinery, the best that money could buy, but without cattle to supply it with enough meat.
A canning plant to process 2,500 tons of tomatoes a year. 2,500 tons a year. We didn't grow that amount. Production so far, nil.
There were many reasons why plans collapsed. But how many mistakes can you afford to make? And the money to pay for them? It was almost all borrowed. 8 years after independence, the value of imports had risen by over 60%. But the value of exports had stopped growing 5 years earlier. In 8 years, the cost of living rose 80%. In less than 10 years, Ghana turned a £180 million cash reserve into a £300 million debt. This was the situation that Ghana had to put right, however difficult it might be. What sort of land is this, whose people attempted so much, so fast?
We are a land the size of Britain, with a population a bit smaller than London, only 5 degrees north of the equator. In the north, we have hot, dry grasslands. The country is flat, and the cold Harmattan wind blows in the Sahara dust for 4 months of the year. Ghana is a land of rivers, the Pra, the Afram, the Ankubra, the Volta, with a great band of rainforest over the middle of the country. Forests mean timber. Timber is one of our basic industries. We have bauxite, the raw material of aluminium. We have manganese and gold. The Europeans called us the Gold Coast. We mine it in Ashanti, one of the richest and oldest gold fields in the world, and they are still producing. We have industrial diamonds and cocoa. We are the largest producers in the world. It was cocoa, our main cash crop, that started us at independence with so much money in the bank.
Yet, in spite of these resources, in less than 10 years, Ghana had accumulated an external debt amounting to nearly £40 a head for every single man, woman and child in the country.
Not everything was wasted. Not everything was mismanaged. Not everything went up more for prestige than profit.
You cannot judge everything by making money. We didn't spend all our money on material things. We now give primary education to nearly twice as many children as before independence.
We more than doubled our secondary schools.
We have more than 16,000 people in teachers' training colleges. Less than 10 years ago, we had only 1,000. We have more than 3 times the number of university places.
And there were other good things too. The Volta River project may have been thought of before independence, but we got it finished. We got electricity. We got electric power. Enough power for the aluminium smelter at Tema. Enough power to supply not only all of Ghana, but neighboring countries as well. And not every industry collapsed. Many prospered, but these were mainly private industries. These enterprises worked because they had been started up properly. They had studied their markets carefully. They could sell their goods at proper prices, and they made a profit. They kept going even when they saw big troubles on every side.
There have always been individual traders and businessmen, Europeans and Ghanaians, who believed in Ghana and themselves.
I started with £15 as a commission agent about 20 years ago, and during that time I had a substantial trade and turnover. Then Ghana was developing rapidly. I decided to enter into the construction world, and we built quite a number of houses and roads in this country. Then immediately after construction, I saw a very simple operation of cannery. We went into production in 1960. After doing this exercise, I came across a very difficult point of getting the raw materials. I made up farms to produce quite a number of cash crops to feed the industry. This has proved successful because I planned and I took care to get the raw materials. The investments were properly made, and actually played a keen part myself in the implementation of it, methods and organization, so that all these things collated to each one another.
Here are the principles which have to be applied not just to a private company, but to any part of a national economy.
When we achieved independence, we faced the difficult task of raising the standard of living of all our people. The best way of doing this was not to establish large prestige projects, but to increase productivity in the agricultural sector. This would enable us to increase food production, provide increasing quantities of raw materials for our new factories, and to sell much-needed tropical products in the world market.
That was the voice of the Vice-Chancellor of the University at Kumasi. And that is what Ghana is now trying to do. Agriculture must be soundly based, for along with her minerals, it is Ghana's greatest source of wealth. From here must come the income, the savings, the balance in the bank, the resources which alone will make it possible for Ghana to finance her own industrial development.
Government has guaranteed minimum prices for corn, rice, groundnuts, and maize.
We will lend money to farmers around the oil mills to grow more oil palms.
The government will provide funds to buy all the sugar cane the farmers can grow.
Rice production can be improved by better irrigation. Trials of new varieties have already been successful.
At Ghana University, the Dean considers a major difficulty.
That school leavers have been reluctant to return to the land to farm it, partly because of the higher remuneration which they expect to obtain in towns, and partly because agriculture is a high-risk occupation. Education should endeavor to meet the development needs of this country by providing the facilities for training these young men and women in agriculture in the farm institutes, agricultural colleges, and the universities. Having done this, they should be assisted to settle on the land and farm it.
Much is being done to diversify and increase Ghana's agricultural production. Meanwhile, industrial potential cannot be allowed to stand idle, to stagnate, where it can be made truly productive. What are the views of a leading Ghanaian journalist?
Yes, we have invited private enterprise, both local and foreign, to come and participate in resuscitating some of our industries and corporations that have gone haywire. Some of the enterprises failed because of obvious faults, like managerial faults, over-ambition, etc., etc. But many of them also failed because of unfavorable credit terms offered us by some governments. And also, in some cases, to the presence of rather dubious characters, not from this country, of course, who took advantage of the situation to make a little pile for their own pockets. However, we are sure that with private enterprise and proper management and concern of our government in dealing with creditable establishments outside, we are sure we'll be able to survive.
The government has already started by inviting private enterprise from all over the world to come in on a partnership basis.
This cement factory was built for Ghana by an East European country. Now we, a Norwegian company, in partnership with the government, are running this factory.
Our company is now a joint enterprise between Ghana government and the French society. The French society has the management and has increased output of the factory and the quality of the matches.
This plant was built at a cost of nearly 3 million. The equipment is first class. So we have been asked to take a look at the management and get the plant on its feet.
When we first visited the Jurapong site in 1967, it was just a vast space, half-built and abandoned. There were no plans, not even a blueprint. It has already got 168 looms working, and before the end of 1969, we should have over 600, with a capacity of 18 million yards.
The lack of trained, experienced managers, even today, is still one of Ghana's greatest problems. How does the Commonwealth Development Finance Company look at this problem?
An industrial company lives or dies by the quality of its management. But successful management requires not only commercial training and experience, but also a commercial mindedness. The only effective judge of a good industrial manager is an experienced industrialist, not a politician or a civil servant.
Here, in the training of Ghanaian management, in making their experience and know-how from all over the world available, is one of the most important contributions overseas companies can make. But as a former Ghanaian ambassador to the United Nations sees it, there is more to it than that.
A prospective foreign investor must accept both moral and political obligations, as well as considering the viability of a project in a developing country. His activities must bring social and economic benefits to the country. His project must be in line with the overall development plan of the country. He cannot expect to claim any special position outside the laws and regulations of the land.
In London, an economic advisor with long experience of African affairs looks at the same problem.
Well, of course, the genuine overseas investor doesn't expect any special privileges. But if Ghana, or any other country for that matter, wants to attract the investor, then there are certain things he's got to be sure of. He must be allowed to earn a fair return on his capital. And this has to take into account the risks involved. The company tax structure must be reasonable. And most important, can profits be taken out of the country? All investors require dividends, and if they can't get them, they won't invest. When governments are considering changes in policies which may affect the overseas investor, will they also consider his interests and consult with him in good time?
Ghana is quite capable of managing her affairs. We know the realities of economic life. We can make our country prosperous and stable. All we need is the right sort of help. We're already using government funds properly to help the small farmer, to extract more minerals, to develop government services and communications. Because without them, no one can prosper and grow. It will take time, but we can do it.
Ghana can be a wealthy country in Africa, providing the new realism is maintained. But industrialization took nearly 2 centuries in Europe. It will be quicker in Ghana, but no one any longer expects it to happen overnight. When the man in the street understands there are no shortcuts to instant utopias, out of this realism, stability and prosperity will grow.